Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Zhou once said, after the 8 true god tiers were defeated, the people of foreign races lost all their fighting spirit. Afterwards, they symbolically resisted for a while before fleeing and surrendering under the fierce attacks of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. Bai Yun and the others were leading all the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Kingdom to capture deserters on the battlefield. The strategic operation of the human race to retreat to the primordial world had also completely come to an end. In another hour or two, the human race would be able to complete this strategic operation. Then, they would activate the primordial infinite heaven shrouding array and completely disappear from the vision of the tens of thousands of races. This retreat is finally coming to an end. I'll deal with the next obstacle. Zhou Zhou thought with a solemn expression. That was more than 500 billion soldiers, and more than 5,000 to 6,000 god spirits from the people of foreign races. Furthermore, there was no lack of god spirits from high-level bloodline races among them. In addition, they carried means such as war machines, divine artifacts, secret treasures, and nomological talismans. Even if Zhou Zhou's current combat strength and subordinate forces increased by 10 times, he was probably far from being their match. Fortunately, I'm the Lord of all races and have the shielding of the Supreme Agreement. Otherwise, I would probably have retreated to the primordial world like the humans. Zhou Zhou thought to himself, is Wu Tu beside you? Ask him when would those individuals of foreign races arrive. He asked Zhou Wan inwardly. Zhou Wan soon replied, tonight? Zhou Zhou's heart trembled. He thought for a moment and said, tonight. You will guard our 3 human territories with Bai Yun and the others. I'm really afraid that they will vent their anger on my human territory after seeing all the humans disappear. Sure. Zhou Wan's answer was as concise as ever. He was not afraid of anything. The main body could just use half of its origin power to nurture it even if he died. This was a rather resource-consuming matter to other god spirits. However, it was nothing to the wealthy Zhou Zhou. Even if Zhou Wan died, he would lose if he couldn't be revived. Zhou Zhou did not say anything else and continued to grasp the Lord's laws. 2 hours later, Zhou Zhou seemed to have sensed something and slowly opened his eyes. Lines of text notifications suddenly appeared in front of him. System announcement. Human faction quests. Cover the humans and retreat to the primordial world. True God tier intermediate grade unique has been completed. 1 billion faction points and 1 exclusive human race divine artifact have been distributed. Congratulations, your reputation in the human race has increased to the level of revered. The favorability of the upper echelons of the human race towards you has increased greatly. When Zhou Zhou saw the words and information of the completion of the missions, he knew that the humans had completely retreated to the primordial world. He looked at the rewards for the human faction quests and a smile appeared on his face. The repute of the human race had been raised to the level of reverence. The favorability of the upper echelons of the human race towards him increased greatly. In that case, the bad influence that retreating to the primordial world had on him should be more or less made up for. Even though he didn't do anything wrong, anyone who was weak was in the wrong. Then, he looked at the other 2 rewards. 1 billion faction points. It was a divine artifact exclusive to the human race. When Zhou Zhou saw this, he immediately opened the faction points rankings. First place, Human, Lord of the Blazing Sun, 3,199,000,000 faction points. Second place, Original Spirit Race, True Lord, 2,830,000,000 faction points. Third place, Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord, 2,550,000,000 faction points. Fourth place, Myriad Spirit Race, Spiritual Venerable Lord, 2,025,000,000 faction points. Fourth place, Chaos Gods Race, Great One Lord, 1,915,000,000 faction points. Zhou Zhou looked at the rankings and smiled. He was already ranked 4th when he looked at it yesterday. The human lords on Cerulean Planet were all discussing the sudden drop in his ranking. There were even lords who publicly uttered on the World Channel that the Lord of the Blazing Sun was no longer capable. Even though these lords were quickly criticized by the other human lords on Cerulean planet, the Lord of the Blazing Sun was publicly acknowledged as the hope of the entire human race on Cerulean planet after all. If the Lord of the Blazing Sun fell, unless another Lord of the Blazing Sun emerged, their future outcome would definitely not be good. However, from this matter, it could be seen that the decline in his ranking had a certain impact on his reputation. Now that he had returned to being the number one of the myriad races, he should be able to break through these doubts. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. The tens of billions of troops under he were not in vain. They did not do anything else for the past 3 days and focused on protecting the humans and retreating to the primordial world. Now, it was finally time for the results. Then, he eagerly looked up at the racial divine artifact that had just appeared in front of him. It was about 1,000 feet tall and emitted an extremely ancient aura. The cauldron's body was engraved with scenes of ancient chaos humans hunting chaos beasts. Strands of dense chaotic airflow dissipated from the cauldron, making this ancient cauldron even more mysterious, as if it came from billions of years ago. Zhou Zhou looked at it before his divine body suddenly trembled. This is the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron of the Chaos humans? He muttered. Race divine artifact name. Lost Chaos sacrificial Dao cauldron. Equipment grade, race. Race divine artifact ability, sacrifice Dao. A race-specific divine artifact of the human race. Place the race-specific divine artifact of the individuals of foreign races in the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. Then, by sacrificing the corpses of the god spirits of the people of foreign races and a certain number of divine crystals, it can transform the race-specific divine artifact of the people of foreign races into a race-specific divine artifact of the human race. The specific sacrificial requirements depend on the quality of the race-specific divine artifact that needs to be transformed. Remaining number of conversions, 1. Prompt 1. After the enhancement of your scavenger talent, the number of conversions of the Lost Chaos Sacrificial Dao Cauldron has increased to 6 out of 6. Race Divine Artifact Description. After the death of the Chaos Will, the grade of the former Chaos human race's divine artifact also decreased greatly. Moreover, its functions also underwent a random change. If we want this race divine artifact to regain its former ability, we need the luck of the human race to restore its former glory. Note 1. This race's divine artifact is exclusive to the human race. It is only effective on humans. Zhou Zhou looked at this racial divine artifact. The Chaos Dao Sacrificial Cauldron was once the strongest divine artifact of the Chaos human race. Back then, the Chaos humans were able to hunt Chaos beasts like prey and not be eaten by them. This Chaos Dao Sacrificial Cauldron was indispensable. Zhou Zhou's Chaos human bloodline heritage recorded. The Chaos Dao Sacrificial Cauldron's initial ability was to offer the nomological items to the Chaos Will through the periodic Chaos Dao Sacrificial Ceremony. Then, the Chaos Will would bestow blessings on the Chaos humans to obtain all kinds of blessings. It was a little similar to the current Imperial Ancestral Temple, but much stronger. For example, blessings that permanently increased one's potential, blessings that permanently increased one's combat power, blessings that permanently increased one's comprehension ability, blessings that bestowed divine weapons. These blessings greatly increased the survival and combat ability of the chaotic human race and made the Chaos Beast's life miserable. At that time, the Chaos humans were equivalent to the favored children of the chaotic world. Their status was even higher than the current original spirit race. Unfortunately, the Chaos humans were almost exterminated with the death of the Chaos Will. They even allowed the Chaos beasts to rise. Now, they even gained the repute of the Chaos God's race. I didn't expect the human race's exclusive divine artifact to be the Chaos Dao Sacrificial Cauldron, but the ability to transform into a racial divine artifact. Zhou Zhou was deep in thought. Zhou Zhou pondered. He now had divine artifacts from 3 different races. The first was naturally the race divine artifact exclusive to the human race on the Cerulean planet, such as the Sword of Xin Yuan and the Holy Record. The second was a general-purpose racial divine artifact, which was the lucky star. The divine artifact of the third race was the divine artifact of the people of foreign races. Currently, he only had one, and that was the blessing of the ice demon god. Vicky, the first god spirit of his Sun Kingdom, had become a god thanks to the probability of becoming a god provided by this race's divine artifact. In addition to his own accumulation, he had leaped to the level of a god spirit. This blessing of the ice demon god was a bone necklace that was bone white in color. At the bottom of the necklace, there was a thumb-sized ice blue ice demon's head. Its eyes were closed quietly, its face giving off a sense of charity. It was the blessing of the race's divine artifact, the ice demon god. Race divine artifact name: Blessing of the ice demon god. Equipment grade: Race. Race divine artifact ability 1. Desire to become a god. The ice demon god, Ba-Yi, sacrificed to the supreme will and returned all his divine power and accumulated faith to his race's people before he died. Ba-Yi hoped that after he died, his race would be able to quickly produce new god spirits to continue protecting his race. When the ice demon race's people advance to the low-tier deity tier elementary grade, the probability of successfully advancing is increased by 10%. Race divine artifact ability 2, Blessing of the Ice Spike King. When the ice demon clan is born, there is a very small probability that they will automatically have the talent, invisibility. Introduction to race divine artifact. The ice demon god, Bai, used himself as a sacrifice to ask the supreme will for mercy. This is a race divine artifact created by Ba-Yi. It contains Ba-Yi's deep love for the ice demon race. Note: this race's divine artifact is exclusive to the ice demon race. It is only effective on the ice demon race. This racial divine artifact has two effects. One is to increase the probability of advancing to the god spirit realm by 10%. The second is to make the ice demon subjects have a very small chance of becoming invisible when they are born. The effects of these two races' divine artifacts are really quite useful, especially the former. For someone like me who needs a significant amount of god spirit subordinates, it can simply be said to be the effect of the race's divine artifact that I need the most at the moment. If I can transform he into a racial divine artifact, it will be worthwhile even if the effects are reduced. Zhou Zhou thought. As for the Ice Demon clan? Alright, even though he did have ice demons under him, the total number of them didn't exceed 50 million. The difference was not small compared to the 200 billion human subjects in the Blazing Sun Kingdom. With such a huge difference in the number of subjects, they naturally had to use their race sacred artifacts on humans to unleash the greatest value of their race divine artifacts. At most, they would give more resources to the Ice Demon race in the future. This way, there wouldn't be much of a difference whether they had race divine artifacts or not. Of course, most importantly, he was ultimately a human. His selfish motive was to give more benefits to the human race. Zhou Zhou would not deny it. After making his decision, Zhou Zhou no longer hesitated. He directly placed this racial relic into the mouth of the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. The Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron seemed to have sensed something. Its entire body trembled slightly before sending a message to Zhou Zhou. I need the chaotic sacred power of the true god-tier chaos human race to activate the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. Then, I need to sacrifice a low-tier true god-tier ice-type material, 100 low-tier true god-tier elementary grade divine crystals, or divine crystals comparable to the total energy of 100 low-tier true god-tier divine crystals? Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. The chaotic sacred power of the chaotic human race was naturally nothing. A low-tier true god-tier ice attribute material and 100 low-tier true god-tier divine crystals were more expensive. Of course, this was for other life forms. Naturally, Zhou Zhou could afford it. From the looks of it, if I want to use this Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron, I have to rely on a true god-tier chaos human. Fortunately, not only am I a chaos human, I'm also a Lord Law God spirit. I've grasped a heaven-defying law skill that can temporarily increase my strength. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to use this race's divine artifact. Zhou Zhou secretly rejoiced. Then, he waved his right hand, and the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron in front of him disappeared. Following that, he instantly vanished from his spot. In the next second, he arrived in a silent starry sky. This was a silent starry sky in his divine kingdom world. However, while it was called the starry sky, in fact, there was not even a planet, let alone life within a radius of 10 million light-years. There were only a few planets further away, and they were still dead planets with no signs of life. Refining a new race divine artifact here shouldn't be a problem even if there's a huge commotion, right? Zhou Zhou muttered. Then, he took out the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron from the king's treasure box and placed it in the cosmos. Then, Zhou Zhou placed his hand on the exterior of the cauldron and activated the law skill, King, to raise his strength to the intermediate true god-tier grade. Then, he began to continuously inject his chaotic sacred power into the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. As the chaotic sacred power continued to be injected, the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron's violent trembling became smaller and smaller at the beginning. In the end, it completely quietened down. However, in contrast, more and more chaotic airflow was emitted from its surface. It even enveloped the dead starry sky within 1,000,000 kilometers, temporarily turning this place into a chaotic world. When Zhou Zhou saw this scene, he clicked his tongue even more. The might of this racial divine artifact seemed to far surpass any racial divine artifact that he had previously obtained. As expected of the chaos human race's divine artifact back then, even if its grade had decreased greatly now, it was still not something that ordinary race sacred artifacts could compare to. Time passed quickly. Even if its grade had decreased greatly now, it was still not something that ordinary race sacred artifacts could compare to. After Zhou Zhou received this information, he immediately threw all the true god-tier elementary grade ice spirit crystals and 100 million low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals into the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron. The exchange ratio between true god-tier divine crystals and low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals was ridiculous, reaching 1 to 1 million. This did not mean that one true god tier was comparable to 1,000,000 low-tier deity-level elementary grade god spirits. However, the quality of one unit of true god-tier elementary grade divine power was indeed comparable to the combined quality of 1,000,000 units of low-tier deity-level elementary grade god spirits. It was precisely because of this that Zhou Zhou did not want to easily use true god-tier divine crystals. Instead, he used divine crystals that could be dropped by legendary tier experts. Zhou Zhou still had hundreds of millions of them in his king's treasure box after all. Even if Zhou Zhou had the king of loots, he only had 2,000 to 3,000 of them. Speaking of which, after investing 100,000-year-old ice soul spirit crystals and 100 million low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals, this Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron immediately emitted a chaotic light. Chaotic flames burned in its cauldron as it began to burn the people of foreign races' sacred artifacts in the cauldron. Zhou Zhou waited quietly. A moment later, the lid of the cauldron suddenly opened as the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron shook. Following that, a dark blue stream of light flew out. After flying a few rounds in the cosmos, it reluctantly flew back to Zhou Zhou. When Zhou Zhou saw this scene, he could not help but smile. Treasures had spirits. What's more, it was a supreme treasure like a race divine artifact. Therefore, he was not surprised by the actions of this new race divine artifact. He looked at the divine artifact. After being modified by the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron, the appearance of this new race divine artifact had already undergone a drastic change. The original Ice Demon God's Blessing was a necklace made of bones. However, this new race divine artifact was completely carved from true god-tier divine crystals with ice elemental laws. Moreover, at the core of the necklace, there was an extremely exquisite human head ornament that looked like a dark blue crystal. A text notification appeared as he looked at it. Race divine artifact name: Ice Spirit Sacred Heart. Equipment grade: Race. Race divine artifact ability 1. Desire to become a god. Originally a race divine artifact of the Ice Demon race, it was later modified by the Chaos Dao sacrificial cauldron of the Chaos human race and transformed into an exclusive race divine artifact of the human race. When the ice demon race advances to the low-tier deity tier elementary grade, the probability of successfully advancing is increased by 10%. Race Divine Artifact Ability 2, Blessing of the Law of Ice. When humans are born, there is a very small chance that they will automatically possess an ice element talent, Heart of Ice. Introduction to Race Divine Artifact. Previously, it was a Race Divine Artifact of the Ice Demon race. Later, it was modified by the common people's regal into a Race Divine Artifact exclusive to the human race with the Chaos Dao Sacrificial Cauldron. It has the effect of helping the human race increase the probability of becoming a god and increasing the talent of the human race. Note 1. This race's divine artifact is exclusive to the human race. It is only effective on humans. Heart of Ice. Creatures with Heart of Ice can easily control ice elemental elements and comprehend ice elemental spells. Not bad. Zhou Zhou heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the specific effects of the advancement. A smile appeared on his face. Even though the probability of becoming a god had decreased by 2%, he was already mentally prepared for this loss. Moreover, an 8% chance was a terrifying increase for the humans of the Endless Heavens. Coupled with the blessing ability of the Ice Law, it would definitely allow his human race to produce many geniuses with ice elemental spells in the future. He looked at the remaining conversion times of the Chaos Dao Sacrificial Cauldron. There were still 5 more times before he could convert another 5 people of foreign races' Race Divine Artifacts. I have to find other races' divine artifacts, Zhou Zhou thought. Actually, this was not very difficult. His first option was to ask the Bodhi Supreme directly. The Bodhi Supreme was almost omniscient. It definitely knew where the ownerless divine artifacts of the race were. However, when it came to the matter of the race's divine artifact, the Bodhi Supreme would definitely require an official number of answers before he was willing to tell him the answer. Zhou Zhou attached great importance to the number of times Bodhi Supreme answered his questions. The number of times he answered an official question might save his life at critical moments after all. Therefore, he did not want to ask Bodhi Supreme questions easily for the time being unless it was necessary. As for the second option, it was to expand his territory. There were definitely a few foreign races in the Supreme Continent which had Race Divine Artifacts. Zhou Zhou could directly attack them and plunder their Race Divine Artifacts. In the High Continent, war and conquest were the theme of the entire continent. As long as there was no alliance between foreign countries, they could directly attack the territories of the people of foreign races without any reason. If he had to ask for an offensive reason, it would be to develop himself in order to fight for the position of the Lord of all races. No one could say anything about this hardcore and universal reason. If it was a Lord faction under the Supreme will that attacked the Scarlet Lord faction under the Crimson Overlord, it would be even worse. If they met, they would fight and snatch. If I want to find information about the race's divine artifact without asking the Bodhi Supreme, we can only temporarily gather information about this through the Heavenly Map Army, the Starfire Mercenary Group, and the Mysterious Caravan. Zhou Zhou thought. The Heavenly Map Army collected secret information at the grassroots level. The Starfire Mercenary Group collected secret information about mid-level factions. The Mysterious Caravan collected secret information about high-level factions. These 3 intelligence forces together formed a complete and useful intelligence network in Zhou Zhou's hands. Then, he thought about the future development arrangements for a while before carrying out the daily activities of the Eye of the Heaven's Anger. Time passed quickly. Night fell in the blink of an eye. The Saha Empire's territory. Boundless Imperial City. Zhou was sitting there quietly. The reason why he was here was that according to the information they had received, the people of foreign races would arrive at the Saha Empire immediately tonight. Zhou was meditating and waiting here because he was waiting for them. After an unknown period of time, Zhou suddenly opened his eyes. As he stood up, his divine body also vanished from the spot. The Saha Empire's border city, Barkhouse City. This was an epic tier advanced grade territory. At the same time, it was also a military fortress. There were all kinds of powerful war machines placed on it. It looked like an indestructible iron city. However, at this moment, The defenders on the Iron City gazed at the enemies outside the city and did not feel that the city could resist their attack for long. That was because there were too many enemies outside. To what extent? There were so many that even god spirits could not see the end of the enemy, even if they tried their best to survey the distance with their eyesight and divine consciousness. They seemed to be trapped in a world filled with enemies, and they were like turtles in a jar. Even though it was a blow to his confidence to describe it this way, the reality was indeed like this. So many god spirits. As a member of the Shepherd's God race, Yuan Song had successfully advanced to a high-tier deity-level elementary-grade god spirit with the help of the massive amount of promotion energy provided by the blessing of the war god and its own comprehension of laws. With his astonishing perception, he could sense that the countless of troops in front of him contained thousands of people of foreign race god spirits. Furthermore, there were dozens of them that made him, a high-tier deity level, feel a menacing presence that made his divine body tremble. It was the aura of a true god tier. There were actually dozens of true god tier existences among the people of foreign races. He couldn't help but feel a little suffocated faced with so many true god tiers, even though he was a god spirit of the Shepherd's God race. But at this moment, a middle-aged man with white hair walked in front of him and gazed at the people of foreign races with a solemn gaze. Then, he emitted his true god-tier pressure. It was the original sin and the demon hunter true god, Geralt. Are you one of the true god tiers who are the pillars of the human race? An arrogant voice came from the people of foreign races. Geralt surveyed the area with his divine telekinesis, and his heart immediately turned cold. This was because he actually didn't notice what the other party was saying. This meant that the other party's strength had already surpassed his. He was at least at true god tier intermediate grade. Geralt was about to speak when, whoosh, a pale green divine light shot out from the people of foreign races alliance army. This divine light emitted the charm of declining laws. Once it hit Geralt, even if Geralt was a true god tier, he would probably be severely injured. Geralt's expression changed. He did not expect the other party to attack so suddenly. The speed of light was extremely fast. At this moment, Geralt did not even have the time to activate the crown of original sin to defend against this divine light attack. At this moment, a cold snort sounded. In the next moment, Zhou Zhou, who was wearing the Emperor's dragon robe, suddenly appeared before Geralt. He held the universe-destroying blade in his hand and cut off the pale green divine light with one slash. Then, he used the myriad method's star palm to absorb all its nomological power. Then, he gazed up at the people of foreign races alliance army. A sloppy true god tier of the people of foreign races who was hiding in the void and wearing a green robe said coldly, "How dare you attack this king's worshipped god spirit? Are you going to violate the supreme agreement and start a war with me?" When the people of foreign races heard the words supreme agreement, their arrogance immediately quietened down. The battlefield of hundreds of billions of soldiers and generals suddenly fell silent because of the words supreme agreement. No one dared to touch this taboo. After a long time, a god spirit who was pitch black and exuded a terrifying true god-tier aura walked out of the deities. He had white hair and carried two black axes that were tens of thousands of feet long. He was called Uriel, from one of the top races in the myriad worlds, the Titan gods. At the same time, he was also the strongest and highest commander of the people of foreign races. Common people's regal. His voice rumbled and was extremely penetrating. The space was shaken by his voice, producing transparent ripples that seemed to be able to shatter space and spread throughout the heavens. You said that this true god tier of the human race is your worshipped god spirit? Zhou Wan looked at him with a solemn expression. So strong. This fellow's divine spirit realm was definitely at the true god tier advanced grade. Furthermore, it was infinitely close to the level of a master god tier. It was even likely that he had already experienced a trace of the power of will. He was only a step away from becoming a master god tier. A master god tier seed. These people of foreign races had actually sent out their master god-tier seeds in order to destroy the human forces behind him. Fortunately, the Yellow Emperor had made a decision in advance and led most of the humans to retreat to the primordial world. Otherwise, once this fellow led an army over, not to mention ordinary humans, even true god-tiers like the Yellow Emperor would probably not be able to escape this fellow's vicious attacks. Right? Even though the enemy he faced was very terrifying, Zhou still said calmly on the surface, "How dare you?" Uriel suddenly roared in anger. Even the laws of space trembled because of his roar. The human race actually dared to violate the supreme agreement and give you the true god of the human race as your subordinate to destroy the balance of the races. I, Uriel, the true god of strength and dominance, will definitely lead the allied forces of the people of foreign races to flatten your territory today and turn the matter of the Lord of all races back on track. As soon as he finished speaking, the hundreds of billions of soldiers of the people of foreign races and the thousands of god spirits under his command were already boiling with killing intent before he could do anything. They stared fixedly at Zhou Zhou and the tens of billions of soldiers behind him. They kept roaring offensive words in the language of various races, as if they were about to swarm over in the next second and drown Zhou Zhou and his soldiers and god spirits, tearing them apart and devouring them. Such a shocking aura. Even though Zhou Zhou's soldiers had experienced many battles, they could not help but feel terrified. Fortunately, they were not vegetarians. Even in the face of such strong pressure, they gritted their teeth and stared at the hundreds of billions of soldiers of the people of foreign races and the thousands of god spirits of the people of foreign races without any intention of retreating or fear. "I'll fight if you want to fight." It was just a fight to the death. What did the soldiers and god spirits of the Blazing Sun Kingdom have to fear? As for Zhou Zhou, who was the first to bear the brunt of the auras of these people of foreign race god spirits and soldiers, he calmly received their terrifying auras. He even had the leisure to size up this true god tier of the people of foreign races. Uriel wasn't afraid of Zhou Zhou's gaze at all. He kept looking at him coldly. Zhou watched for a while. When he saw that the true god tier still had no intention of making a move, he uttered regretfully, "He is the original sin and the true god of demon hunting, Geralt. He is indeed the offering of this king's worshipped god spirit. And since he can stand here safely, it means that the Supreme Agreement also acknowledges his identity. If you don't believe me, you can attack me. However, when the Supreme will manifest the Supreme Eye to punish you, don't blame me for not reminding you before." With the help of the chaotic sacred power, Zhou Zhou's voice easily spread into the ears of all the people of foreign races present. Most of the god spirits looked like they had eaten shit when they heard this. Uriel's expression darkened as well. The reason why he didn't attack immediately after saying that was because he realized this. He had the honor of personally witnessing the might of the Supreme Agreement and still had a deep impression of the supreme, heavenly might that couldn't be offended. Therefore, he was also afraid that what this common people's regal uttered was true. He was the seed of the master god tier. He could not put himself in danger because of such a thing. That would not be worth it. The threat of the common people's regal was indeed great. However, it was not as important as his own life. He also felt that it was a pity. If only this common people's regal was lying, he could take the opportunity to attack he. As long as he destroyed the common people's regal, he would definitely be able to obtain the rewards from the elders in the clan. At that time, not to mention advancing to the Master God tier, even if he reached the intermediate Master God tier grade or even the advanced Master God tier grade, there might still be a glimmer of hope. Now that the common people's regal uttered this, his hope should be gone. However, he was still unwilling to trust it. How long has it been? What method did this common people's regal use to bypass the restrictions of the Supreme Agreement in such a short period of time and allow another true God-level expert to appear in his territory? A true God tier from the common people's regal was already annoying enough. He actually had another true God tier under his command. How could they rely on the Lord of all races to restrict King of the Blazing Sun's development in the future? Moreover, he had swept through most of the blazing Sun Kingdom's troops and God's spirit with a sweep of his divine sense. A look of doubt flashed across his face. What did they just see? Other than this true God tier, there were actually more than 100 God spirits under the command of the common people's regal. Furthermore, his soldiers had also reached nearly 60 billion. After reading it, there was only one thought left in Uriel's mind. How did this guy develop? This guy's Lord faction was not even an advanced kingdom, right? Why was the number of troops and God spirits already comparable to the number of troops and God spirits of some high-level Empire Lord factions? If he continued to develop, it wouldn't be long before he would have a Lord faction comparable to a Divine Kingdom's Lord faction. He felt troubled. Uriel carefully observed his surroundings and soon narrowed his eyes again. This god remembers that this is the Barkhouse city of the human race's Saha Empire. We're here to attack the human race. You're leading troops to guard this place now. Are you going to protect this city, or even the entire Saha Empire? Killing intent rose in the depths of Uriel's eyes again. If this common people's regal dared to say yes, he would dare to directly attack the common people's regal. At that time, so what if you were the number one lord of all races? Since you dare to interfere in the battle between the local forces of our high continent, I have a suitable reason to attack you. When the time comes, who cares if you are a lord of all races? To the local factions, the identity of a lord of all races was indeed a battle-free token, but it also had its limits. The lord of all races were not allowed to interfere in the battle between the local lords. Once the lords of the myriad races helped the local lords for their own selfish reasons, they could not blame the enemy for attacking the local lords. Faced with Uriel's question, Zhou Zhou's expression was indifferent. He even smiled with interest. Let me reintroduce you. The Divine Sword Empire, the Night Empire, and the Saha Empire under my feet officially belong to me. Which means the territory you want to attack is the territory of this Lord of all races. Please don't have any inappropriate thoughts about this king's territory. Otherwise, if anything happens to you, don't say that you didn't expect it. What? As soon as these words were spoken, all the people of foreign race, god spirits, and soldiers gazed at Zhou Zhou in disbelief. The territories of the three human empires now belong to this king of the blazing sun? How is this possible? Are you kidding me? Uriel was so furious that he laughed. The human race even gave you the territories of the three empires. Why don't you just declare yourself as the master of the human race? Zhou did not say anything. Instead, he summoned a four-colored throne from his king's treasure box. This four-colored kingdom was called the Four Primordial Soul Seat. It was a high-tier deity-level intermediate-grade divine artifact. It had the ability to suppress elemental attacks, assist in controlling the elements, assist in comprehending the four great laws of earth, water, wind, and fire, and a portion of defensive and self-protection divine artifact abilities. Of course, these effects were actually not very useful to Zhou, who had a full set of true god-tier weapons. But he could make he sit down and act cool. That was enough. Like now, Zhou sat calmly in the Four Primordial Spirits seat. He supported his chin with one hand and tapped the armrest with the other as he looked at Uriel with a faint smile. It's still the same thing. If you don't believe me, you can attack and try. Uriel looked at Zhou in bewilderment. The more magnanimous he was, the more it proved that he was confident in what he said. Could this fellow be anticipating that he would lead his troops to charge forward and then violate the supreme agreement and be killed by the supreme punishment? That was what Uriel thought. At this moment, when the other god spirits and soldiers saw Zhou's arrogant appearance, they immediately became furious. They wanted to immediately rush over and teach Zhou Zhou a harsh lesson so that he wouldn't be so arrogant. However, when they saw that their highest commander, Uriel, had not made a move, they could only suppress their anger in their hearts. Seconds ticked by. Neither side made a move. At this moment, the battlefield was a little strange. Uriel's side was 10 times stronger than Zhou Zhou's, and the difference was even greater. However, the side that had the upper hand was the blazing Sun Kingdom side, where Zhou was. Uriel's side, on the other hand, seemed to be in a dilemma. He wanted to fight, but he did not dare to. He wanted to retreat, but he was too embarrassed to do so. After a long time, Uriel took a deep breath and took a deep look at Zhou Zhou. Then, he turned around and ordered the people of foreign race soldiers and god spirits, retreat. As soon as he finished speaking, apart from a small number of people of foreign race soldiers and god spirits who seemed to have guessed something, they looked at Zhou Zhou and company indignantly. Most of the people of foreign race soldiers and god spirits were shocked. Highest Commander, why? Our military strength is clearly far superior to them. Why aren't we attacking? Your Excellency Uriel, you don't really believe that this fellow has the ability to take over the territories of the 3 human empires, do you? What right does he have to take over such a large territory? He is clearly scaring us. Your Excellency, are we retreating just like that? The people of foreign races said indignantly. They had crossed billions of light years with the intention of destroying the entire human race. Unexpectedly, before they had even taken down a human city, the highest commander on their side had already ordered them to retreat. Who would be willing to accept this? Shut up. Uriel looked coldly at the god spirits of the people of foreign races who opposed them. If you don't believe my judgment, you can barge into Bark City on your own. However, if you really want to do this, remember that regardless of whether you succeed or fail later, the consequences of your choice have nothing to do with me and the people of Foreign Race Alliance Army led by me. Don't think of implicating us later. Now, get lost and obediently go do your job. Towards the end, Uriel's voice was filled with cold killing intent. These people of foreign race god spirits were unwilling? Did they think about how a master god-tier seed like him would willingly retreat? As the commander-in-chief of this offensive operation, he originally felt that his face was not glorious enough because he had given the order to retreat. Would these god spirits of the people of foreign races still dare to rush in front of him and bark afterward? Was it really because he didn't dare to kill them? Many people of foreign race god spirits did not dare to offend this master god-tier seed. No one dared to object anymore. At this moment, Uriel turned to look at Zhou Zhou. Let's go to the territories of the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly Barbarian Empire. He looked deeply at Zhou Zhou. That place is not the territory of this common people's regal. Zhou Zhou looked at him calmly. Uriel smiled gently and led his army into the distance. After he left, the soldiers and god spirits on Zhou Zhou's side heaved a sigh of relief. The pressure that Uriel and his army had put on them just now was too great. Even if they were prepared in advance and had the courage to fight them to the death, they could not help but be a little timid in the face of such a terrifying enemy. After all, most of the enemies they faced in the past were of similar strength, and their own strength often far exceeded the other parties. It was their first time experiencing such a situation where the enemy's strength was 10 times, or even more than their own, and they were already at their door. Then, they couldn't help but look at Zhou Zhou. This was their first time experiencing it. His Majesty was the same. However, His Majesty actually faced the other party so calmly. Moreover, he did not fall for the enemy's verbal trap at all. With just a word, he forced the other party back. Their hearts were filled with admiration and admiration for such boldness that could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed. As expected of their Majesty, Spellcaster Gaga looked at His Majesty's imposing back as he sat on the throne and said with reverence in the crowd. He forced back hundreds of billions of enemies with a single word. His Majesty is the calmest and most fearless spellcaster king I've ever seen. Of course, Bai Yun and the rest also recovered from their frightened emotions. They said proudly after hearing Spellcaster Gaga's words. His Majesty had never disappointed them. He would always be the object of their pursuit and learning. At the same time, Zhou Zhou, who was sitting cross-legged in the 4 primordial soul seats, had an incomparably profound gaze. He didn't feel proud of using words to force the other party back. He was just using the Supreme Agreement as a flag to scare the other party. They were afraid of the Supreme Agreement, not he himself. If not for the Supreme Agreement, Uriel would have led all the soldiers of the people of foreign races and the god spirits of the people of foreign races to attack together. Apart from himself, Bai Yun and the rest would probably have died. He was thinking about the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly Barbarian Empire. Go on. You'll only find that there's not a single human left there. All that's left are self-built buildings that even the building blueprints have been taken away. Zhou was filled with disdain. Still, he looked in the direction they had left and gradually made up his mind, sooner or later. His main body would also bring an endless army of blazing suns to your race's territory, destroy your race, and seize your territory. He came from the same source as Zhou Zhou's main body. What he was thinking now was almost equivalent to what Zhou Zhou's main body would think after knowing about this matter. Then, he turned to look at Bai Yun and company. Continue guarding the territories of the three empires. Be careful and pay attention to their movements at all times. Be careful that they will make a comeback. He said, "Yes, Your Majesty." The soldiers said respectfully. Zhou nodded and slowly hid in his space. Even though he had disappeared, everyone was still calm and filled with a strong sense of security. That was because they knew that their majesty was currently sheltering them in the dark. The Blazing Sun Kingdom. In the Divine Kingdom passageway, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou Zhou opened his eyes. If nothing goes wrong, this matter should have come to an end. He thought to himself. Even Uriel wouldn't dare to violate the Supreme Agreement and invade his human territory. With Zhou's perspective, he could tell that the fellow valued his life very much. It didn't seem like an existence that would risk his life for a race mission. Next, he would continue to focus on his activities. He would hunt the target of the eye of the heaven's anger and increase the level of his territory. It was time for his kingdom to be upgraded to an advanced kingdom. But the next time I encounter such a thing, I can use my will to seize the body of my clone and control it to experience what he has experienced. This way, we can go through some dangerous and exciting things. If I encounter a danger that's enough to kill me, only my clone will die, not my main body. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. It had to be said that it was very gratifying to show off in front of his subjects and enemies. Let me go through this as my main body. Usually, he would let his clones will control his body before returning to his main body in the king's city. This way, he could maximize his safety and interest without delaying his comprehension of the laws. It could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. The next day, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou Zhou, who was sitting cross-legged on a golden mat, slowly opened his eyes. He received news from Zhou the moment he woke up. The territories of the Great Xia Empire and the Heavenly Barbarian Empire have been attacked by the people of foreign races led by Uriel. Under their attacks, the territories of the two empires have turned into nomological death zones. Unless an existence at the Master God tier level takes action to eliminate the danger of the nomological death zones, I'm afraid no life forms will be able to live in them for at least 100,000 years. After Zhou Zhou received the news, his expression turned even colder. Zhou get Bai Yun to record the identities of all the attackers. He sent a voice transmission. Sure. Zhou immediately replied. Zhou Zhou didn't say anything else. He just looked at the starry sky of the divine world outside the temple. Uriel and the participants of the people of foreign races. One day, I will definitely do this to your territory 10 times or 100 times over. He said softly. It wouldn't take too long. What happened after they did this? What did they do now? Zhou Zhou asked after a moment of silence. They're retreating now, Zhou replied. Zhou Zhou frowned slightly. Retreat? How is that possible? This time, they came with more than 500 billion soldiers, more than 5,000 to 6,000 god spirits, and dozens of true god tiers. In addition, he himself is a master god tier seed. Will he be willing to destroy an uninhabited territory and then retreat dejectedly? Even if he is willing, what will the people of foreign races led by him think of him? What will the upper echelons of the titans who sent him think of him? If he really did that, The powerhouses he knows and those who know he will definitely label him as incompetent. How could he, a titan who values his future so much, make such a choice that would affect his future? The more Zhou Zhou thought about it, the more he felt that there was something fishy about the enemy's retreat. Tell Wu Tu not to let down his guard. They won't retreat so easily. Zhou Zhou reminded him. Sure, Zhou once said concisely. In addition, Zhou Zhou thought for a moment, and his expression turned cold. Order Wu Tu to start gathering information on the people of foreign races who had previously stopped the humans from retreating to the primordial world. The foreign races who have the power of an empire-level lord will not move for the time being. However, those racial factions that don't have empire-level lord factions and are at most kingdom-level lord factions dare to take advantage of the situation when our human race is in danger. Now that I've freed up my hands, I'll bring my troops back one by one. There are too many races involved in this crusade against the people of foreign races. There's no way to hide it. In that case, let's do it openly. First, send a letter of surrender to these races and forces, ordering them to surrender tactfully. If they are willing to surrender and join my blazing sun kingdom, we can let bygones be bygones after a small punishment. However, if they are unwilling to surrender and insist on resisting stubbornly, don't blame us for attacking them. If they would rather die than surrender, then we'll find a good home for them. Let these people of foreign races who would rather die than surrender be annihilated. Towards the end, even though Zhou Zhou's voice was light, the coldness in his voice could not be concealed. Annihilation. This was an extremely cruel term for any faction. However, in this battle involving countless races in the myriad worlds, such things were actually not rare. It could even be said to be common. Didn't Uriel come to their human territory with the intention of annihilating their race? If not for the primordial world left behind by Imperial Lord Pengu, which could be the last place for the human race to rest and take refuge, the human race would probably have been plunged into a crisis of extinction. On the first day that Zhou Zhou descended to the supreme continent, he thought that if he became stronger in the future, he might inevitably encounter such a thing. Therefore, he was already mentally prepared. Since these hostile people of foreign races had previously stopped them from retreating to the primordial world and almost caused their race to be annihilated, now that the human race was temporarily out of danger, he could not be blamed for counterattacking with even more ruthless methods. The other party had already maliciously wanted them to be annihilated. Even if it was just a helper, there was no need for him to think for them. He had to return the favor 10,000 times over. This was what Zhou Zhou was thinking. Sure, Zhou said, then wait for me to bring my troops back first. Image him. Then, Zhou Zhou ended the telepathic conversation with Zhou Wan. After Zhou Zhou ended the call, he thought for a while before deciding not to think too much about it. Instead, he began to form the Heaven's Aversion seal in his hand and used the Eye of the Heaven's Anger to continue searching for his target. The next day, in the Reincarnation Sacred Palace, Zhou Zhou opened his eyes and could sense it. It was Bai Yun who had brought her troops back. He had two thoughts. Most of his divine thoughts were still in his main body as he continued to use the Eye of the Heaven's Anger. As for the other small portion of divine sense, it entered Zhou Wan's consciousness and took over his divine body. Outside the city gate in the blazing Sun Kingdom, Zhou Wan, whose divine body had been taken over, had a dazed look in his eyes before returning to normal. He heard Bai Yun's respectful voice. Your Majesty, I'll first bring the soldiers to the Triumphal Arch, then go to Lord Mu Gu to clean up the Ranchland Plain. After collecting all the information about their advancement, I'll report to you with the war general. Bai Yun said respectfully. Sure. Zhou Wan. No, Zhou Zhou nodded. Then, he said, ask them to rest for 2 hours. After 2 hours, you will set off again. First, conquer the 3 intermediate-grade Crimson Kingdoms under the Crimson Overlord's command around our territory. Then, go and hunt the Heavenly Aversion target. As long as he conquered 3 more ultimate Crimson Kingdoms under the command of the Crimson Overlord, Zhou Zhou would fulfill all the conditions to upgrade the Blazing Sun Kingdom to an advanced kingdom and officially upgrade the Blazing Sun Kingdom to an advanced kingdom. Actually, he still needed to conquer two intermediate kingdoms that were not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. However, when they were expanding their territory some time ago, Bai Yun and the rest had conquered three intermediate kingdoms that were not under the command of the Crimson Overlord. This left only one condition for the Blazing Sun Kingdom to advance to an advanced kingdom. "Yes, Your Majesty," Bai Yun said respectfully. In fact, they had already rested for the night yesterday and did not feel tired. They could have set off immediately after cleaning up the ranchland plain. However, resting for another 2 hours could also improve his condition. Therefore, he thought for a moment and didn't say anything else. Zhou Zhou nodded and walked into the capital alone. He used illusionary spells to change his appearance into that of an ordinary scholar as he walked. It would take some time for Bai Yun and the rest to clean up the ranchland plain. During this period of time, he might as well change his appearance and take a stroll around the capital in different identities. During this period of time, he had led troops into battle, ascended to godhood, and comprehended laws. He was occupied with all sorts of matters. Now, as he walked on the thoroughfares of the capital and gazed upon the various countenances of the subjects on either side of the road, as well as the way they were fleeing for their lives, their families, themselves, and their future, Zhou Zhou suddenly came to the realization that it had been a long time since he had taken a closer look at the lands and subjects that he had guarded with all his might. "I'm selling Lingji flour pancakes, high-quality Lingji flour pancakes. Customers, take a look. This taste, this pattern, it's rarely seen in the entire Blazing Sun Kingdom. Have a taste, try it for free. Opening for business. Opening for business. I, the city lord of Wani Merchant, buy travel clothes, buy matching travel suits, and even give local travel guides. The Thousand Realm Tourism Club next door is our business partner. It operates honestly and doesn't deceive anyone. The Nine Blades Divine Weapon Shop has opened its membership area. Welcome to the registration. Customers who enroll as members can get a 20% discount on customized new weapons in the future. Repairing weapons will cost half the price." As if I would believe you. Don't raise the price first and lower it later. Disgusting. The New Wind location has launched a new outfit, New Wind 76. This new set of clothes has improved the flying function of this outfit. It can fly higher, faster, and further. The energy usage is also 6% lower than the 75 model. Furthermore, the safety has been greatly improved. We also provide unexpected rescue functions. We guarantee that we will not have to worry about traveling. Everyone is welcome to purchase it. The Super God Game Club is looking for a professional chef. The minimum requirement is an extraordinary tier chef. It's best if you're good at making cerulean planet ingredients. We offer good treatment. All old masters are welcome to apply. Zhou Zhou suddenly saw a tall building as he walked. The name of this building was Mixed Virtual Reality Experience World. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows and walked in. As soon as he entered the first floor, he saw a silver robot floating about 50 centimeters above the ground. It quickly noticed Zhou Zhou and flew in front of him at a comfortable speed. "Excuse me, this is the guidance robot, 7. Do you want to experience mixed virtual reality?" it asked. "Yes." Zhou Zhou nodded and asked with a smile, "What services do you have here?" Mixed virtual reality is a great invention. There will be countless services in the future because of it. Currently, we have only opened 6 functional experience areas for the time being. The first functional experience area is the Gaming World Experience Area. You can enter an independent gaming world. You don't have to wear any equipment to experience all kinds of incomparably realistic gaming world experiences. The second functional experience area is the Combat Profession Growth Experience Area. You can enter an independent combat world and receive the full guidance of the Combat Mentor NPC. Our Combat Mentor NPC can help you quickly improve your combat skills through the virtual reality battlefield and virtual reality enemies without hurting you. The combat skill experience you can obtain can be perfectly replicated in the real world. The third functional experience area is the Life Profession Growth Experience Area. You can enter an independent world of lifestyle professionals. This world is made up of 236,727,688 legendary tier lifestyle professional NPCs. There are more than 1.8 billion exclusive workplaces for lifestyle professionals to improve their profession level, such as the Blacksmith Inheritance Tower, the Elemental Field Reaction Area, the Large Particle Collision Laboratory, the Beast Taming Area, the Astronomical Area, the Materials Analysis Area, the Cooking Hall, and so on. You can apply for any legendary tier life profession NPC to guide you personally for free. You can increase the level of your life profession that you want to improve. Or you can enter a place suitable for you to increase the level of your life profession and train your life profession alone. Temporary attributes are provided for free in both venues. The attribute panel can show that you currently have professional abilities and will use words, images, and telepathy to convey which of the professional skills you have mastered have reached the qualified level of professionals of the same level, and which skills have not reached the qualified level of professionals of the same level. The attribute panel will search for similar but more outstanding examples according to the ultimate database. From there, it will take advantage of your strengths to complement your weaknesses and personally guide your professional skill level, allowing your professional skill level to steadily increase. Furthermore, the attribute panel will also give a specific implementation plan for the subsequent maintenance of proficiency. It will ensure that your professional skill level will only increase and not decrease. The fourth functional experience area is the Virtual Lord Continent Strife Zones. You can enter a Virtual Lord Continent world and become a Lord with a random Lord talent. Then, you can compete with the Virtual Scarlet Lord faction and the Virtual Local Lord faction for the title of Lord of all races. The fifth functional experience area is the Heavenly Virtual Tourism World. You can travel to the myriad worlds in our world. The sixth functional experience area is the Heavenly Gourmet World. You can sample the different delicacies of various worlds in our world area. The beautiful scenery and delicacies of the last two world zones were 100% replicated according to the inheritance records of the Myriad Races Inheritance Tower established by His Majesty. I guarantee that they won't be inferior to the scenery and sample of the original world. The experience price of each world zone is 1 extraordinary tier mist core per day. Which world zone do you want to experience? The robot asked. The life profession growth experience area? Zhou Zhou pondered for a few seconds and said, in terms of combat, he, who sat on the throne of the king, didn't lack experience in this aspect at all. On the other hand, he seldom dabbled in life professions. Now, he wanted to try something new and experience this virtual hybrid reality technology. Will do. Seven nodded and said to the air in front of him, please open the life profession growth experience area. Approval requested. A gentle female voice sounded from the robot. The next second, a door of light made of silver data appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. Customer, please enter. The robot said. Zhou Zhou nodded and walked in. More than an hour later, Zhou Zhou walked out of the door of light in surprise. Customer, how was the experience? Can you give us a 5-star review? When Zhou Zhou heard this, he looked at the white platinum tier intermediate grade puppeteer option that appeared out of thin air in his life profession column. In the end, he nodded readily. Downstairs in the mixed virtual reality experience world, Zhou Zhou looked at the building and his expression became more and more emotional. This is a mixed virtual reality technology with a database. Even though my comprehension potential has already reached the limit of the world, or even surpassed it. However, to be able to raise a life profession that I've never come into contact with to the white platinum tier intermediate grade in more than an hour, I still think it's a little ridiculous. And the ultimate database has unlimited growth potential. When I was leveling up the puppeteer life profession, there were only 123,777 learning groups in the database, of which only more than 84,000 were black iron tier to white platinum tier intermediate grade. If the number of people in this learning group can increase by 100 or 1,000 times, my improvement speed will probably be even faster. Perhaps in less than an hour, I can become a diamond tier or extraordinary tier puppeteer or even higher. As long as there are enough comparative study groups, perhaps ordinary people can reach my level. Even the stats interface can rely on so many professionals to summarize a perfect puppeteer's career path. To summarize the life experiences of billions of life forms to achieve a perfect professional growth. Generation after generation, generation after generation of stronger professionals. The ultimate end of civilization is a one-person civilization? After experiencing the experience just now, Zhou Zhou's mind was filled with endless thoughts about civilization. After a long time, only then did he smile and shake his head. He left this place and returned to the Divine Kingdom. Bai Yun stood respectfully in front of His Highness in the Divine Kingdom's main hall. Zhou Zhou looked at the war data projection in front of him. From yesterday to today, even though Bai Yun and the other soldiers and god spirits had only fought with the people of foreign races for one morning, they had wiped out a total of 48 billion people of foreign races and 35 god spirits in this short morning. The war resources left behind by these enemies and their combat items were enhanced by the title of King of Loots and the Strongest Lord. They obtained a total of more than 998,800,000 legendary tier mist cores, more than 6,466,000,000 epic tier mist cores, more than 92,012,000 extraordinary tier mist cores, more than 1,350,600,000 diamond tier mist cores, more than 2,050,077,000,000 white platinum tier mist cores, more than 2,860,077,000,000 yellow gold tier mist cores, more than 8,860,500,000,000 white silver tier mist cores, and 8 billion green bronze tier bronze mist cores. There were over 1,030,000,000,000 skill books and 8,600,000,000 6,000 pieces of equipment. The basic materials were about 350,000 trillion units, more than 10,350,000,000 units of basic elemental gemstones, more than 480 million units of thunder element gems, 310 million units of life elemental gems, 350 million units of death elemental gems, 7,012,000,000 origin crystals, 150,500,000 green bronze tier lord talent crystal fragments, 181,650 holy spirit tier faith divine crystals, more than 230 million units of divine crystals from low tier to high tier deity level, 100 true god tier elementary grade divine crystals, more than 12 million low level to high tier deity level divine artifacts, 36 true god tier divine artifacts. There was also a total of about 5 million divine spark fragments, god tier medicinal herbs, god tier ingredients, god tier ores, god tier blueprints, and other treasures. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly after reading this part of the summary. Even though Bai Yun and the others did not kill as many enemies as they did the day before yesterday, in terms of the total number of loots, they had more than the day before yesterday, and the quality was also higher. This meant that the strength of the soldiers and god spirits sent by the people of foreign races yesterday morning exceeded that of the day before yesterday. However, it was a pity that in the face of the terrifying military strength and combat strength of his soldiers and god spirits, they could only be defeated. I've killed more than 100 billion soldiers from these people of foreign races after 3 days of war. This should reduce a portion of their strength and racial heritage. This way, when I lead my troops to attack them in the future, it should be easier. Zhou Zhou thought. Then, his gaze landed on the life elemental gems and death elemental gems. Another third of the upgrade requirements have been met. With another harvest like this, I can increase the level of my territory. He nodded in satisfaction. Then, Zhou Zhou looked at the god spirit list, the insight defection list, and the military strength list. He first looked at the list of god spirits. And now, the 10 scarlet god spirits imprisoned in the 9 nether fiend celestial prison had already been insight defectioned by all the members of the Star Alliance. Moreover, after the battle yesterday morning, another 15 legendary tier advanced grade soldiers advanced to the lower realm. This also brought the number of god spirits under Zhou Zhou's command to 185. He fell into deep pondered when he saw this result. The number of new god spirits has nearly doubled compared to yesterday. This should have the function of increasing the probability of becoming a god with the ice spirit's sacred heart. Zhou Zhou speculated. A smile appeared on his face. This race's divine artifact was really not bad since it had already begun to take effect as soon as he obtained it. Then, he gazed at the insight defection list. First of all, Zhou had used the insight defection twice in his place on the battlefield yesterday. Moreover, it was against two people of foreign races with a body mass of 5 billion. In the end, these two insight defections directly led Zhou Zhou to 4,216,827,658 people of foreign races soldiers. As for the other group of Star Alliance masters who did not obtain the quota for the insight defection, they had also given Zhou 1,056,008,602 people of foreign race soldiers after following the army to participate in the war with the foreign races today. The total number of soldiers under Zhou Zhou's command was now 57,317,897,004 soldiers. Including the Star Alliance's current total of 13,782,000,000 soldiers, the total number of troops under Zhou Zhou's command had already reached an astonishing 71 billion soldiers. Among the troops under his command, excluding the Star Alliance, there were 1,096,854,427 Black Iron Tier soldiers, 5,688,083,615 Green Bronze Tier soldiers, 20,890,600,000 White Silver Tier soldiers, 10,232,900,790 Yellow Gold Tier soldiers, 7,987,022,600 White Platinum Tier soldiers, 5,969,650 Diamond Tier soldiers, 4,136,800,000 Extraordinary Tier soldiers, 1,312,500,000 Epic Tier soldiers, and 4,023,982 Legendary Tier soldiers. As for the god spirits under him, after today's battle, their strength had also increased astonishingly. Among them, Guoqiao, Qi Xiantian, and Yuan Song had advanced to high-tier deity-level elementary grade. Vicky, Bai Yun, Wu Xian, Feng Luo, Suin, and Luo Shang had all advanced to the mid-tier deity-level intermediate grade. The strength of the other god spirits had also increased to a certain extent. Zhou Zhou tapped his right hand gently after he finished reading, and the war data projection in front of him dissipated. Your Majesty, this is the spoils of war from the Ranchland Plain today. When Bai Yun saw this scene, she took the initiative to hand a silver ring to Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou agreed and brought the ring to the gate of summoning with Bai Yi. In front of the gate of summoning, Zhou Zhou stood there and threw all 13.5 billion yellow talisman Dao soldier recruitment books and 3.75 trillion violent storm spirit recruitment books into the spatial ring. Then, he summoned for the 20 empty galaxy as usual and made all the soldiers appear in the inner world of the galaxy. Finally, he used 100 epic tier mist cores to summon all the recruits at once. The next second, the 20 galaxy spaceships were packed to the brim with 17.25 billion soldiers. The number of soldiers under my command is now 74,567,897,004, plus the Star Alliance's 13.782 billion. The total number of soldiers I can lead has already reached more than 88.3 billion. Zhou Zhou agreed in his heart. This way, the total number of soldiers under his command would officially exceed 100 billion tomorrow. 100 billion soldiers. This number was already equivalent to 1/5 of the soldiers that Uriel had brought. In addition, the soldiers under Zhou Zhou were either kingdom-level soldiers or empire-level soldiers. They didn't even have a high-level soldier type that was one level lower. This made their individual combat power far exceed that of soldiers of the same level. If they were to fight against the 500 billion people of foreign races under Uriel's command, as long as the gods on Uriel's side did not make a move, Zhou Zhou's side might even have a chance of winning. Unfortunately, the other party's god spirit would definitely make a move. Otherwise, Zhou Zhou might have brought these soldiers to destroy Uriel and the others. As for now, it was better to lay low and develop for a while. Then, he handed these recruits to Bai Yun to arrange, and began to summon the subjects of today's Gate of Summoning. Zhou Zhou called out silently in his heart. The following second, with the disappearance of the 100 epic tier mist cores, the entire gate of summoning flashed with white light. Then, 44,000 new subjects appeared in the open space in front of the gate of summoning. Zhou Zhou glanced at the new subjects. What disappointed him was that none of the professionals summoned this time were rare profession owners worth paying attention to. It seems that the owner of a rare profession can't be summoned every time. Zhou Zhou thought. He was not very disappointed. The subjects summoned by the gate of summoning every day were just icing on the cake for Zhou Zhou after all. It was naturally better to have it, but it didn't matter if he didn't have it. Then, he strolled to the Lord's shop. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Zhou Qingmin said respectfully. When Zhou Zhou heard this, he sized him up carefully. When he realized that he really did not discover his identity, he could not help but feel a little emotional. This talent, doppelganger technique, was really not bad. Even Zhou Qingmin, a living being created by his Lord talent, could not tell that he had actually come with a clone and not his main body. Of course, it was indeed Zhou Zhou's will that controlled this Zhou 1 clone. "Bring out today's merchandise." Zhou Zhou chuckled. "Yes, Your Majesty." Zhou Qingmin took out 3 golden boxes from under the counter and placed them on the counter. Zhou Zhou looked over subsequent to he opened them one by one. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows when he saw the initial item. This was because it was actually a chaotic-colored heart that emitted a chaotic aura. The surface of the heart was still circulating with the aura of the chaotic bloodline. Finally, this merchandise has arrived. When Zhou Zhou saw this item, he could not help but sigh. This item was none other than the Chaos Beast. No, it should be said that it was the bloodline of the Chaos God's race. Bloodline name: Chaos God's Race Bloodline. Bloodline level: True God Tier Advanced Grade. Bloodline effect: the user can obtain the bloodline of the original spirit race after absorbing it. After fusing with this bloodline, the user will gradually awaken the bloodline ability of the original spirit race during their growth. Zhou Zhou looked at the heart that was circulating with a chaotic aura and recalled the inherited memories of the Chaos Human bloodline. In fact, when the Chaos Humans were at their peak, when the underage Chaos Humans were about to reach adulthood, they needed to carry out a hunting activity and complete their coming-of-age ceremony. Only then could they truly be considered an adult Chaos Human who could take charge. And the target of this hunting activity was the Chaos Beast. "It's time for me, a Chaos Human, to become an adult." Zhou Zhou looked at the Chaos God's race bloodline and smiled. He wasn't in a hurry to immediately buy. Instead, he initially looked at the other 2 items. The second item was a law skill book called the 9 Heavens Technique. Law skill name: 9 Heavens Technique. Law skill quality: enhanceable, True God Tier Advanced Grade. Introduction to Law Skills: a secret skill of flying laws mastered by the bloodline descendants of the Chaos God clan Kuan Pong, which can grow up to the True God Tier Advanced Grade. True God Tier Kuan Pong once used this 9 Heavens Technique. With a flap of his wings, the 9 worlds passed in an instant. This technique was also known as the #1 flying nomological secret technique of the Chaos God's race. Zhou Zhou stroked his chin subsequent to reading it. A descendant of the Kuan Pong bloodline? He thought about it and quickly remembered that when he had previously instigated the Chaos God's race under the Great One Lord in the Divine Battlefield, there was indeed a Chaos God's race member who looked like a fish and a bird. So, he was the descendant of the Kuan Pong True God Tier? Not bad, not bad. I've already received your 9 Heavens Technique. This king will definitely reward you well when you return to the Blazing Sun Kingdom one day. Zhou Zhou thought happily. He then looked at the last item. The last item was a contract. Treasure name: Mineral Contract, Mineral Space Elemental Gem Mine. Treasure grade: Low Tier Deity Level. Treasure effect: after signing the deed, the owner will have a miniature iron ore with a resource reserve of 100,000 tons. Treasure description: a treasure that can make mineral resources appear out of thin air in the territory. Mineral contract? Zhou Zhou was not surprised. Previously, he had already obtained many such contracts when he opened the regional treasure chest. They were widely distributed throughout the territory of the Blazing Sun Kingdom. What surprised him was the type of mineral. Spatial elemental gem mine. Zhou Zhou looked at the contract and stroked his chin. According to the Yellow Emperor and the others, this is a necessary upgrade resource for an Empire-level lord to upgrade their territory. I'm about to advance to an advanced kingdom. After that, I'll have to prepare the resources to advance to a junior empire. This spatial elemental gem mine came at the right time. After a lord's faction rose from a kingdom to an empire, what they needed were not life elemental gems or death elemental gems, but the even rarer time and space elemental gems. The latter was harder to collect than the former, and the area of production was extremely rare. Typically, only god spirits had the ability and channels to collect two types of gem resources. Zhou Zhou was still thinking about what to do when he needed these two types of gems to upgrade his territory in the future. With the bloodline inheritance he currently grasped, he did have some means of obtaining it, but he had to incur a cost and might even encounter some danger. He didn't expect to suddenly give him a mini spatial elemental gem mine for free today. It was a pleasant surprise. If there are no surprises, the bloodline of the Chaos Gods race, the secret technique of the Nine Heavens technique, and this miniature spatial elemental gem mine should have been provided by that descendant of the Kuan Peng's bloodline. The bloodline of the Chaos Gods race, the secret technique of the laws of the Nine Heavens, and this miniature spatial elemental gem mine should have been provided by that descendant of the Kuan Peng's bloodline. Zhou Zhou sighed. He remembered that the descendant of the Kuan Peng's bloodline seemed to only be at the extraordinary tier level at that time. An extraordinary tier life form could master true god-tier nomological secret techniques and mineral resources that even an empire-level lord faction could not wish for. This was simply unimaginable for living beings from other ordinary races. However, to top bloodline life forms like the Chaos Gods race, the Shepherd's God race, and the original Spirit race, this was probably an extremely ordinary matter. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He asked, "How many mist cores do these three goods cost?" Zhou Zhou asked. The bloodline of a true god-tier advanced grade Chaos God is worth 20,000 legendary tier mist cores. The growth limit is a true god advanced grade nomological secret technique, the Nine Heavens technique. It's worth 15,000 legendary tier mist cores. Low-tier deity level elementary grade mineral deed, miniature spatial elemental gem mineral, worth 100 legendary tier mist cores. Zhou Qingmin said, "I'll buy it." Zhou Zhou said, devoid of hesitation. Then he took out 35,100 legendary tier mist cores and handed them to the other party. "Thank you for your business." Zhou Qingmin packed up the goods and handed them to Zhou Zhou as he said with a smile. After Zhou Zhou took it, he immediately turned around and went to play games. Zhou Zhou did not say anything else and returned to his divine kingdom subsequent to he received the goods. Then, he took out the Chaos God bloodline from the three goods and fused it into his Chaos human bloodline. In terms of absorbing bloodlines, Zhou Zhou's main body naturally absorbed them. After Zhou Zhou's main body absorbed the Chaos God's race bloodline, he immediately felt his heart beat faster. His heart beat faster and faster, making him seem like an engine that was constantly increasing the horsepower. His body temperature also rapidly rose. What was weird was that Zhou Zhou felt even calmer in this state. This contradictory yet harmonious state of him made him enter an extremely mysterious state. In this state, he felt that he had a very clear perception of all the laws in the world. It was at least 10 times stronger than before he entered this state. He could even clearly comprehend the chaos origin laws above the myriad laws through this state. As Zhou Zhou immersed himself in his own state, he seemed to have realized something. It turned out that absorbing the Chaos Beast's bloodline was actually so beneficial to the Chaos humans. It could actually allow the Chaos humans to better comprehend the Chaos laws. One had to know that the upper limit of the Chaos law was extremely high. Even if it was inferior to the Lord's law, it was not much different. A deity who walked the path of the Chaos nomological laws had a chance of becoming an existence at the Master God tier, Supreme God realm, or even willpower level in the future. No wonder the Chaos humans had existed for so many years and still maintained this coming-of-age ceremony until their demise. So this was the hope for the Chaos humans, to have a transcendent expert. Apart from allowing him to gain a clearer understanding of the myriad laws and the laws of chaos, Zhou Zhou could also sense that his chaos sacred body was beginning to transform at an exaggerated speed with the help of the Chaos God's race bloodline. His physical body would become stronger, his physical defense would be higher, and his physical body would recover faster. He could see further, hear more clearly, smell more carefully, taste more sensitive, touch more sensitive, and even his intuition had been strengthened by more than one level. As for the regeneration of severed limbs, blood rebirth, and other physical divine powers, they were as simple as a child's play to him. In addition, there were endless mysteries of the physical body hidden in his holy body, waiting for him to unearth them. Zhou Zhou exclaimed in his heart. As expected of one of the advantages of the two races that the Chaos Beast was most proud of, the endless heavens and the physical body were number one. It was indeed ridiculously strong. At this moment, he suddenly felt something, and his attention immediately fell on his divine spark space. The divine spark space was his sea of consciousness before he became a god spirit. It was where his soul once rested. After becoming a god spirit, his sea of consciousness became a divine spark space that accommodated both the divine spark and the soul. Originally, it was like this. However, at this moment, Zhou Zhou actually watched helplessly as a second divine spark slowly condensed in his divine spark space. This divine spark was completely disordered and emitted the aura of the chaotic loss. It was the chaotic divine vessel. Chaotic divine vessel. Zhou Zhou looked at the divine spark and pondered. If the body of the Chaos God's race was said to be the second most prided talent of their race, then the chaotic divine vessel was the ethnic talent that the Chaos Beast was most proud of. There was no other. Why did the Chaos God's race call themselves the Chaos God's race? It was because the Chaos God's race was born with an illusory chaotic divine vessel. This also meant that as long as they reached the legendary tier advanced grade in the future and satisfied the promotion energy requirements, they would be able to become a god spirit 100%. They would not even have the bottleneck to become a god spirit. 100% chance of becoming a god. It was the reason why the Chaos God's race was called the God race. Even the original spirit race, the Shepherd's God race, and the Myriad spirit race did not have such a ridiculously powerful racial advantage. There was also a small number of clansmen who could not become gods in their lives. Even if it was only a small portion, it did exist. As for the Chaos God's race, as long as they did not die midway, they would definitely become gods in the future. As for whether he wanted to comprehend law skills, this was naturally necessary. However, the Chaos God's race was born with a chaotic divine vessel. It was equivalent to having a miniature chaotic law origin in their bodies. The Chaos God's race could understand any nomological path they wanted from the Chaos Divine spark in their bodies. If his comprehension potential was higher, he could directly understand the chaotic laws. And now, I also have this chaotic divine vessel. Zhou Zhou sighed. No wonder the Chaos humans could defeat the Chaos beasts back then. What I have, you don't have, but what you have, I can have. What was the point of fighting then? Then, he looked at the information regarding the Chaos human bloodline that had just appeared in front of him. You have absorbed one portion of Chaos God's race bloodline, true God tier advanced grade. Your Chaos human bloodline has unearthed more potential and advanced to the high-tier deity level elementary grade. Your six senses powers have been greatly enhanced. Your parapsychic ability has been greatly enhanced. You have awakened a true God tier advanced grade, enhanceable Chaos human race talent, Chaos God body talent. You have awakened the true God tier advanced grade, enhanceable race talent of the Chaos God's race, chaotic divine vessel. You have awakened the true God tier advanced grade, enhanceable race talent of the Chaos God's race, chaotic divine vessel. You have grasped the Chaos God's race's common sense inheritance. You have grasped the secret inheritance of the Chaos God's race. Congratulations, You have completed the adulthood ceremony of the chaotic human race. The will of chaos, which has fallen for countless years, has sensed your existence and sent you an ancient guidance. You have comprehended the incomplete will condensation technique, will divine transformation realm. After reading this information, Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows slightly. Good God. Just the bloodline of a true god-tier advanced grade chaos god had actually raised his chaos human race bloodline by a large level, from a mid-tier deity level elementary grade to a high-tier deity level elementary grade. Back then, the bloodline of the first demon Deep Abyss, who was an advanced grade master god tier, had only raised his chaos human bloodline from low-tier deity level elementary grade to a level infinitely close to the mid-tier deity level elementary grade. He had not even broken through to the mid-tier deity level. And now, the chaos god's race bloodline had actually provided he with so much bloodline power. It far exceeded the bloodline enhancement that the master god tier advanced grade bloodline had brought him. The Chaos Beast bloodline is indeed extremely compatible with my Chaos Human bloodline, Zhou Zhou thought. Then, he looked at the other awakened innate abilities. Race talent name, Chaotic God Body. Talent level, True God Tier Advanced Grade. Enhanceable. Talent description. After the Chaos Humans complete their coming-of-age ceremony, his body will become indestructible, especially after advancing to the God's Spirit realm. At the same level, he will even be comparable to a defensive divine artifact of the same level. Your chaotic divine body can make it easier for you to understand thousands of principles or even more profound laws of the chaos. The chaotic human race with the chaotic divine body is easier to become a god spirit among the countless races and life forms.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.